Thank you very much. I appreciate all the reporters that are here in the room today and the reporters on Zoom. Thank you for tuning in today. I'd like to, my first press conference as the National Hockey League Players Association Executive Director, and I'm excited about it, so thank you. I'll try and answer every question you have. I'll do my best. I've been on the job for a couple weeks now, so if I don't have an answer for you, I'll get it for you at some point. But I want to just start by thanking the players, the search committee, and the executive board for trusting me with the future leadership of the National Hockey League Players Association. These players are dedicated to the game, and I want to thank them for the time they took to do this search. And I'm truly grateful for this opportunity that I have in front of me right now. Just a little background on who I am. Most of you probably already know, but I have a long history in organized labor. I'm a proud union member and I've been a union leader in different capacities. I understand the importance of this position and the responsibility that I have to the players of the National Hockey League. I got here today, honestly, by working with and on behalf of workers, particularly in the United States and in Boston over my career. I started my labor career as a construction worker. I followed my father into the building trades. My father was an immigrant from Ireland, and I followed him and my uncle Pat as well. I followed him into the labor's union. I served the honor of serving as recording secretary and president of that local, Labor's Local 223 in Boston. Later, I had the opportunity to serve as the head of the Greater Boston and Building Construction Trades Council. I've represented 35,000 construction workers in 20 different unions in the Greater Boston area. In 1996, I had the pleasure and opportunity to run for the legislature in Massachusetts. I was elected in 1997, and I served 16 years in the House of Representatives in Massachusetts. In that role, I certainly prioritized workers' rights, economic growth, inclusion, substance use disorder, and I was one of the go-to members for organized labor in the legislature during that period. In 2013, I ran for mayor of Boston. I was elected mayor of Boston. I served 2 terms as mayor, almost a full 2 terms. I left to become labor secretary, but I was in the process of, in my last year of serving as in my 2nd term. During that time, we added 140,000 new jobs to the city of Boston. We secured $48 billion of development. And when I was running for mayor, I was told I was too pro-labor. I wouldn't be able to work with business community. And working collectively with business and labor, we were able to show how successful joint labor management cooperation works. And Boston, during that period, had tremendous economic growth and opportunity. In early 2021, I was appointed Secretary of Labor by President Joe Biden. It certainly was an honor to work for the president. I was the point person to work in the most pro-labor, pro-union administration, certainly in my lifetime, and it was such an honor, and I worked tirelessly on behalf of American workers. And I will always be grateful to President Biden for the opportunity to serve with his confidence and his friendship. I want to thank you, Mr. President, for that opportunity. During my early interviews with the NHLPA, it was clear to me that this opportunity was one that I wanted to pursue. Becoming the executive director allows me to join 2 passions I have. One is hockey, and the other one's fighting for working people. And growing up in the city of Boston, you can know that it's a hockey town. And a kid in my house, the Bruins were always on, and loving the game as I got older, continued to love the game, and have the opportunity now to represent the NHLPA is just an amazing opportunity. In this role, I look forward to working with the players in the league to gain even stronger understanding of what is important to them and their families. We don't just represent the players, we represent their families as well. I have always felt that listening to the people you represent is absolutely critical to being an effective leader and a good, strong leader. It was true when I led the building trades. It was true when I was the mayor of the city. And it's certainly true as the Secretary of Labor. And now it's true as Executive Director of the National Hockey League Players Association. There's a lot of work to be done, and I'm excited to get started. We have a unique opportunity right now to enhance our world presence, especially with the number of different countries represented in the National Hockey League. I look forward to discussions with Commissioner Gary Bettman and the NHL on capitalizing on the opportunities, including the World Cup of Hockey, the Olympics, and the Global Series. We also want to grow the popularity of players by focusing more on who they are as individuals. And it's certainly very important to engage in the membership and prepare them for the next round of collective bargaining agreements. There are a few people that I'd also like to acknowledge at this moment before I wrap up. First and foremost, I would like to acknowledge Ted Lindsay and his family, as well as all his peers for their work in founding the original Players Association, which was established in 1967. And I hope that I can carry out Ted's vision of what the NHLPA is and what he wanted it to be. I'd also like to acknowledge the staff of the National Hockey League Players Association. Some are here with us today, and some aren't with us today. I've had the chance to see secondhand the amazing work they've done on behalf of players, but I've had the chance over the last 2 weeks to actually see the work that they've done now, and they do amazing work. So I want to thank the team at NHLPA, those in the room here today, and the folks that aren't in the room today. I'd also like to acknowledge the work that my predecessor, Don Fear, has done over the last 12 years for the NHLPA. In particular, and I think a lot of us talk about in particular the last few years, which were very challenging years for everybody during the pandemic. Everyone knows the difficulty we all faced. I was the mayor of Boston at the time, and when we shut down the city and Toronto was shut down and the world was shut down, there was very little outlet for people to be able to kind of get away from the pandemic that was right in front of them. And Don, with the NHL, was able to reach a deal to work a new CBA, which allowed players to return to ice so fans could watch the sport that they love from home. And I think that was really important for a number of reasons. And I've had the opportunity over the last couple of weeks now to talk to Don a couple of times and actually meet with him. And I look forward to continuing to work with him as we move forward here and talking to him, because certainly he has a lot of insight into NHL and all that he's done in sports. Finally, I want to thank a unique bunch of players that I've had the opportunity to meet one-on-one over the last, quite honestly, 2 months. The search committee, led by Kyle Okposo. I want to thank Kyle, Ian Cole, Matthias Ekholm, Justin Falk, Sim Gagne, Zach Hyman, Nate Schmidt, Kevin Shattenkirk, Jacob Truba, and James Van Riensdijk. Sorry, James. These are the players that, while they were playing the sport and doing their job, they also took time out of their time to look and think about the future of the National Hockey League Players Association. They put incredible amounts of time, energy, and effort to make sure that this process was a very open and transparent process, and I want to thank them very much. I look forward to working with them as we continue to move forward here. With that, I'll stop talking now, and I'm going to open up for questions and take any questions you have. And like I said, I'll answer everything you have. If I don't have an answer for you, I'll let you know I don't have the answer, and I'll get it back to you.
Okay, so we're going to be taking questions both from in here and then on Zoom. Let's start in here. We're going to have Adrian and Ryan are going to be holding the wireless mics. So who's got a question to start off here? Okay, Kristen. And if you could, please just state your name and your media outlet before you ask your question.
Yeah, because you're all going to be new to me, kind of. You know, it's like if you're from CNN, I might know you, but if you're not, so
well, you're new to us, so
yeah, that's all right.
We're all getting to know each other. Kristen Shelton with ESPN. Welcome, Marty, of course, to the new role. I wonder, what do you feel are the priorities for you coming in? I know you touched on a couple of topics there in your introductory statement, but what do you feel like are the priorities for the players at this point that you're going to be looking at as you step into this role? Yeah,
the number one priority is talking to the players. And I made it very clear to the players in all my previous roles in union politics and in politics, you get to know your constituency. And it's important for me to talk to the players, to talk about what their issues are, what their concerns are, thinking moving forward. You know, I represent the players of the NHL, and really understanding for them what's important for them moving forward. You know, collective bargaining is down the road a little bit, and there's some issues front and center that we want to make sure that what we hear their concerns. So whether it's they're playing the World Cup of Hockey or they're concerned about what goes on in the locker room, that's what I'm going to be doing. That's my priority, as well as learning the inner workings of the NHLPA, and also building a relationship. You know, I plan on building relationships with, obviously, the NHL, with Commissioner Bettman, and also the league, the owners in the hockey league, just to understand, you know, this is about, we're in this together, but I represent the players.
Pierre?
Marty, Pierre LeBrun from TSN and The Athletic. You mentioned, you know, growing the presence for the players on the world stage. What's your sense of the issues in front of you in terms of the World Cup of Hockey, which I know both sides hope to hold in 2025, but obviously problem that still exists in terms of Russia and how some other European federations would feel about their participation?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we've had a couple conversations over the last couple of weeks about the World Cup of Hockey. We've talked a little bit about the Olympics as well, coming up in 2026. And I think at first, what I like to do is let's establish the program. Let's establish the World Cup of Hockey back, and let's have a forward-looking schedule to see so people can be consistent with it. Fans love it. Players love it. It's important for us to do it. I think that right now, commenting on what's going on in the world, I mean, things can change and different things can happen. So I think it's a little early to talk about, who's involved in the tournament or not. But I think we should get the tournament on paper and get the concept written, more than a concept, start the conversation, really get it going, moving forward, and what this will look like. And then obviously we have to deal with challenges that might come up as time goes on.
Let's go, Matt.
Hey, Marty, it's Matt Larkin here with Daily Faceoff. A couple of weeks ago, talking to media, Gary Bettman maybe left the door open to negotiating the salary cap for an increase of maybe more than $1 million. And I know it's very early in your tenure, but is that something that's going to be on the agenda, discussing it with Gary in the near future, a possible increase?
Yeah, the commissioner in our meeting. Well, we had a quick meeting. When I say meeting, we stopped by and saw him. We had a meeting in New York, so I went by. I spent about a half hour with the commissioner. He brought that up, and certainly we're open to any conversation.
Josh?
Marty, Josh Clippin with Canadian Press.
Okay, let me just go back. We're open to any conversation, but we're not open to changing the escrow.
Marty, welcome. Josh Clippin with Canadian Press. Just what's your view of the hard cap system as it stands, and is a luxury tax something that players might look to entertain in the next round of negotiations?
Yeah, this is where I'm going to pump in. I'm new on the job, so so I've learned a little bit about. I mean, I've learned a lot about the salary cap and moving forward. I think it's still it's too premature to talk about what we'll be talking about in negotiation. That's really going to be based on what the players want and the direction the players want to go in. And we have not been anywhere near having deep conversations about that yet. I mean, most of the conversations I've had with the players have been like getting to know each other. Obviously the search committee, I had a chance to get to know them pretty well. The executive board, I've had a chance to get to know them pretty well. I'm still learning the players we're still meeting each other, I should say, not learning, meeting each other. So we're a little early on that one.
Okay, we're going to take 2 questions from Zoom, and then we'll come over there, Ryan.
Hey, Marty, this is Steve Weiner from the Associated Press. You obviously mentioned the escrow when talking about the cap this summer. Do you get a sense yet of your conversations with players about what their priorities are in your leadership and kind of what they want from you in the next few weeks and months?
No, I think, when I went through the search and the players asked me a lot of questions about my style and how do I operate as a union leader. And the thing I really focused on was making sure that I understand and know the membership. And they would like to hear that, and not that I see them once a year and talk at them. It's about building a relationship where the players feel comfortable with being able to call me and talk to me, and I feel comfortable talking to them. And that really kind of was the biggest, I think, in the search committee for me. That what I took from it is that the players, they deserve a leader that knows who they are, knows their families, and then we can move from there. So I think it's really understanding each other and knowing each other. I'm a different type of leader. I mean, listen, I've looked at the past history of the NHLPA, and I've seen the different leaders, and some people have done great things here. I think I'm different. I bring a different perspective than probably every single one of my predecessors.
Got one more.
Hi,
from
Marty.
Zoom.
Adam Proto from the Hockey News. Thanks for doing this. We don't know a whole lot about you, but you're certainly a public servant, somebody, who's grown and evolved over the years. What are some of the kind of seminal moments in your life that have kind of formed your stance as a pro-union guy and somebody that wants to work with labor?
Yeah, that's a great question. The story I like to tell is when I was a young kid, I grew up in a family where my father was a laborer, very active in the union. My Uncle Pat was very active in the union, and he was a leader of that union. And I remember when I was a young kid, I used to go to the union hall with my Uncle Pat, and I'd go and I'd see the emblem of the laborers union, 223, and I wanted to be part of that. And in my kitchen, most Sundays back in the old days, people would go visit each other. My uncle and my father would be talking about the union and about the importance of representation, and talking about a member who might not have enough hours for health care, and then another member would take a layoff. So I grew up in that family that was always advocating on behalf of workers, and I was just fortunate enough to get that fire in my belly to continue to do the same thing, and love the fact that organized labor, what organized labor stands for, and that kind of shaped who I was as a person. And you know, when I got, as I was a young man, I got involved in the union. As I got older, I started running for office, and I never really forgot where I came from. When I was running for mayor of Boston, you know, I was criticized by some of the media saying I was too close to organized labor, and we went back in the campaign office and we talked about, how do I handle this? What do I do here? Like, how do I separate myself from just being a union guy? And what I decided finally to do was say I wear my union. My unionism with a badge of honor, and I wasn't going to run away from it. So that's embedded in me of who I am, and I learned it from my parents and my family, and just being around people all the time and wanting to represent people.
Marty Arun Srinivasan from Yahoo Sports. You just spoke about the importance of representation. The NHL has come under widespread criticism for allowing players and teams to opt out of Pride Nights. I'm wondering if you feel this is a human rights issue, and where the NHLPA can sort of assist the NHL in actualizing policies that are supposed to include gay and trans communities, as well as other groups that feel sort of disenfranchised from hockey.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, you know, Commissioner Bettman said the other day that he supports people's individual rights, and I agree with him on that. But personally, in 2004, in Massachusetts, when the Supreme Court of Massachusetts ruled that gay marriage was legal in Massachusetts, I was one of the members, one of the floor whips to preserve marriage equality. I've always been a very strong supporter of the LGBTQ plus community. You know, I have a history of that, whether it's been a legislator, a mayor of the city of Boston. I supported the trans community. We raised the trans flag in front of City Hall until legislation passed in Massachusetts. Certainly as Secretary of Labor, same thing. And I think that, you know, as we continue to move forward here, I think the league will have conversations about moving forward. But I think it's really important that as a league and as locker rooms, we're an inclusive locker room, and that we support all people's right to support the game. And so, again, we have probably some work to do there as well.
Kevin
McGran, Toronto Star. There is multiple investigations into the conduct of some players on the Canadian junior team in 2018. Some of those players now in the NHL, of course, that you'd be representing. What is your role when the findings of these investigations come out? What's going to be your role in dealing with the aftermath?
I mean, we'll have to wait till the findings come out and see what happens. Right now, it's an ongoing investigation. So, as you know, you didn't ask me the question, but I'll just say this anyway. I can't comment on the investigation at the moment. But any situation that arises where there's a player or you know, alleged whatever it is, and there's a finding, whatever it is, it's something that we will take very seriously at the NHLPA. I will take very seriously, and we'll look. I mean, you know, in these cases, you know, I think you have to also, and again, not necessarily this one, but you're innocent until proven guilty, and we represent players. So we have to wait and see till investigations are complete.
Kristen
Chilton, ESPN. You've mentioned Commissioner Bettman a couple of times. I just wonder, what do you see as the, I guess, optimal relationship for you with Commissioner Bettman? How much have you gotten to know him so far, and how do you, I guess, intend to sort of approach the workings that you guys will have to have together over this coming time?
Yeah, we'll have a wonderful relationship as long as Commissioner Bettman agrees with everything I say. So I'm excited about that. You know, I got a chance a little bit to know the commissioner back when I was the mayor, a couple of times in Boston. We talked about that when we met. And again, like we're at a very early stage of the relationship, but my approach is collaborative. You know, I've been historically, whether it's been involved in labor disputes or negotiating contracts, that's how I operate. And I think that as long as you mutually respect each other, there'll be a great opportunity here moving forward on behalf of the players and behalf of the league.
We're going to take 2 questions from Zoom.
Yeah, hello, Ken Campbell here. Marty, a bit of a two-parter. The first one is a clarification. You said that you would be interested in talking about raising the salary cap, but not escrow, and I'm wondering how that would be possible. And secondly, sort of to dovetail with that, you know, there's been a pretty firm economic system in place since 2005. Do you see, as the leader of this union, pursuing any material changes to the actual economic system, to the hard cap, to those sorts of things?
All right, both of those questions are geared around collective bargaining, and the first one, when I got asked the question about would I be interested in seeing the cap go up, my answer was yes, and my follow-up to that was that the players are not interested in raising the escrow right now. The second piece of that, I'm not going to really get into I'm not going to get into collective bargaining issues right now when we're talking about a contract negotiation that's 2.5 years away. Again, I need to take some time to get a chance to talk to the players more about what they want to see out of me and out of us when we go to the bargaining table.
Pierre.
Here, Pierre LeBrun again. What can you do in your position to raise player engagement? One of the issues over the years with the PA has been, frankly, players sort of dipping in and out of their caring of what's going on in terms of labor issues and so on. And it obviously spikes around CBA negotiations, and then it sort of kind of goes away. How do you keep their engagement high throughout?
Yeah, I think it's about conversation. It's about giving the players a reason to stay connected to us, and I think engaging them in lots of different conversations. I mean, this is no different. You know, generally the typical union membership, you get maybe less than a third of the membership engaged in their union, and my goal here is to get more than a third of the players engaged in this union. I think that players have a lot during the course of the season and off season. They have a lot going on in their life, so we have to create those opportunities. How do we engage them better in moving forward? And I think knowing that they can call me and approach us anytime, and that's why when I gave a shout out to the staff earlier today. A lot of the staff in the office have interactions with the players every single day, and sometimes people don't understand that interaction is with your union. So it's about engaging the players more. The players shouldn't be coming to the table just around CBA time. We should be getting engaged all the time, and you saw it with the search committee. I mean, these players were very, very engaged in this process, and then you saw it with the executive board committee. They were very engaged in this process, and there were other players calling and asking about me and about what the process is. So it's good to see that.
Okay, we're going to take one more from Zoom.
Hi, Liz Mullen, Sports Business Journal. I hear you to say, and I understand that you want to talk to the players first before you make any comments on the hard cap or the current system, the escrow. But I'd like to ask you, when you were a union leader yourself, how many collective bargaining agreements did you negotiate, and did you engage in any strikes? Were there any lockouts or work stoppages? Thank you.
Yeah, great. I was not, as far as any negotiation I did personally, there was no strike or lockout, but certainly as mayor and as Secretary of Labor, I was involved in bringing sides to the table for strikes and lockouts and potential strikes. So, for example, nurses strike in Boston for Brigham and Women's Hospital. Both sides were at a standstill. The nurses in the hospital asked me to get engaged in that conversation, and within literally about a couple of days, we were able to negotiate get a contract negotiated. Obviously, the rail strike in the country, the potential rail strike looming in the country, was a very big potential strike in the United States. I've been involved in other contracts where workers have been on strike for a long period of time. There was a manufacturer in Wisconsin that manufactured farm products that were on strike. We're able to negotiate that. So I've been involved indirectly with people that have been on strike, threatening strike, moving forward, lockouts, all of that.
Sir Simon Dingley from CBC News. How do you feel about players who refuse to wear the gay pride uniforms in the pregame skate? A lot of them have said no.
We talked about it earlier. I think that, I agree with Commissioner Bettman when he says everyone has the right to make their own personal decision. But again, on the other side of that, I think we need to make sure that people understand that the game of hockey is an inclusive game. We welcome everyone.
Josh.
Marty, Josh again with CP. I'm sure you're well aware of the Kyle Beach Chicago Blackhawks situation of a couple years ago. What is or what has the NHL done or planning to do to make sure that situations like that don't happen again, where there's miscommunication or broken telephone with a player who's in need?
Yeah, I can't answer what the NHL has done, but I can say that certainly I've been brought up to speed, and I've obviously followed it a little bit when I wasn't in this role. It's something that it should never have happened, and I need to make sure that something like that never happens again.
Luke?
The meaning, the communication and lack of.
Hi, Marty. Luke Fox from Sportsnet. Just curious if you could describe your relationship with the Jacobs family. I know you're a Boston guy.
Yeah, I know them. I know them pretty well. You know, I was mayor for 7 years in the city. You know, and I know them fairly well. I know, you know, all the sports teams in Boston. I know, obviously, the Family Sports Group that own the Penguins. I know Bob Kraft, who's a friend. I know the Celtics, Steve Pagliuca and Wick Grossbeck. So I know all the owners of the teams in the city. And, yeah, I'd say it's a good relationship. I mean, but, you know, and the next question is probably, is they supported my campaign? They did. You know, but, you know, I don't, in my entire career as a legislator or as a mayor, you know, supporting my campaign is one thing, and using that as a way to leverage me is never going to happen. It never has happened. It won't happen.
Take 2 questions from Zoom.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Walsh. It's Francois Gagnon from RDS in Montreal. You're representing players, and during the course of a game, some players are involved in let's say, some situations where you have a player injured and another one that is looking forward to get suspended. Last week, Montreal Canadian Mike Hoffman, one of your members, said that the sentence or the suspension that was given to A.G. Greer from the Bruins for a double check, cross-checking in the face was not enough. I know that you have to take care of the player who is looking to get suspended, but something can be done from the NHLPA side to make sure that the victim is also taken care of? You're in a tough situation, sir.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, as the head of the union, I'm going to care about both players in that situation. But that's something that, again, you know, I haven't been really brought up to speed too much on the disciplinary process. I mean, I went over the sheets. I know the situation there. It's something that I'm going to look into and look a little deeper on. I can't really give you much more comment than that because I don't have anything for you right now.
Hi, Marty. John Worrell with the Associated Press. I know it's you're new to this thing, but the PA has had a track record of supporting women's hockey and is a prime sponsor of the PWHPA. How up to speed are you on what the PWHPA is doing, and your commitment, and what is your commitment to supporting women's hockey as part of being a PA leader?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think that there's a relationship right now between the NHL and the PA, the women's PA. We're going to continue that relationship and hopefully strengthen that relationship as we move forward here, moving forward. And certainly I support women's hockey. I actually have a couple staff members in the office of the NHLPA that played hockey, so it was exciting yesterday, and we support women's hockey. You know, the game of hockey, I think we have to look to continue to expand it and expand the participation in hockey, and women is a huge part of that.
Any other questions from the room? Okay, we're going to go back to Zoom.
Justine Roberge from Radio-Canada. I have another question for you about Pride Nights, because you talked a lot about inclusion, but having like teams and players not wearing that jersey, what does it say about homophobia in the NHL?
Again, I mean, it's something that I only know what have read, and people have different reasons. I've read different reasons why players decided not to wear the jersey, and I think it's important for us. As you know, I've said I'm personally a supporter of the LGBTQ community. I always will be. And the more I get an opportunity to talk to people about this and learn more about it, I will. But I think it's people's individual rights if they want to wear a jersey. It's a warm-up jersey before the game skate. And I don't think that, you know, the gay LGBTQ community shouldn't feel that the NHL hockey players are turning their back on that community. The majority of the players have worn the jersey. Super majority of the players have worn the jersey.
Hi, Marty. Patrick Johnston from Postmedia Vancouver here. I'm just referencing your time as Secretary of Labor. You know, you look back at the railway strike and the resolution to it. How did that process? How has that stood up as a lesson for you coming into this job? You know, what insights did you gather from that?
Well, I think you know, with the railroad potential strike, with any work dispute I've gotten involved with, every single time there is a potential strike or a strike, there's a breakdown in communication between both sides. It's not one side necessarily holding the line, it's a breakdown in communication. And you know, in the way I was able to get any of those strikes that I've been involved with resolved is by bringing both sides to the table and narrowing the conversation to the top issues that are there and dealing one issue at a time, and not going through what historically negotiations have been. And I think that an open line of communication is really important. So, for example, you might have a disagreement with, we might have a disagreement with the NHL today on something. That means tomorrow you don't continue to carrying that difference away, the difference to the next day. I just think that you need to have conversations. Anytime there's a labor breakdown in negotiation, one side or both sides can refuse to talk to each other, and you can't get an agreement when you don't have two willing parties.
Hey there, Alex Silverman with Sports Business Journal. Thanks for taking the time, Marty. Two quick questions. One, how important is it for the players long-term to continue participating in the Olympics specifically? I know that the NHL has, at points said that the participation in the Olympics isn't, entirely beneficial and to the league. So how important is it to maintain that for the players? And on the second question, what staffing changes at the PA have you made or do you plan to make?
Yeah, on the first one, I mean, the Olympics is in the collective bargaining agreement, so, I mean, if there's going to be a conversation about that, that'll be in a couple of years. I know that in some of my conversations and what I hear, the players love playing in the Olympics, and they love playing in world hockey competitions, and so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. When it comes to the CBA, if the NHL wants to make changes, they'll have to have a conversation with us about it. So that's something that's it. What's the second question? Sorry, it popped out of my head.
Any staffing changes you plan to make?
Oh, staffing.
At the PA?
Yeah, no, we had a meeting on Monday. I think it was a staff meeting Monday, and I went in to tell everyone, listen, we're going to continue to move forward here. There's no drastic. I mean, I'm not planning on drastic changes of the NHLPA. I mean, will there be adjustments in some moves? Absolutely, down the road. But again, the folks that work there are new to me, and I'm new to them, and I think it's an understanding of getting to know each other and seeing what areas of the NHLPA we have to give more support to, and what areas the PA are working. So we'll have lots of conversations about this. The first 2 weeks have been great. I mean, that's why I opened my remarks thanking the staff of the PA. There's some really dedicated people in there that have a longevity. I mean, what really stuck out to me is the people that have been there, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. I mean, they've gone through different leadership and different structure and different everything, and they're still there. So that says a lot about who they are and their character.
We're going to finish off with one last question from Zoom.
Hi, Marty. David Ostrowski from the FIA Group here. Thank you for doing this two-parter. With all the former NHL players suffering both physical and mental health issues, do you foresee any changes to the amount of retiree medical insurance that the league subsidizes? And secondly, how much do you consider that of the two primary countries players come from, Canada and the U.S., one has universal health coverage and the other is not?
Yeah, on the first question, I had lunch the other day with Glenn Healy, and I've talked to Kelly Chase, and certainly that was pretty much, you must have been at the next table, because the topic of conversation was about the mental health of older hockey players and their physical health, and certainly I'm looking forward to continuing that dialogue and moving that dialogue forward, and making sure that that's important, because that's an important issue, and the second piece is, I think you asked me about healthcare, was it? I got a muffle. Healthcare and the cost. Yeah, I can't comment on that right now. I don't know enough about it, and it's still too early for me to comment on that. But certainly, listen, I represent the National Hockey players in the current league today, and someday they're going to be alum. So we want to make sure that the transition to being a player into being an alum is a smooth transition. That's why we will be connected. Anything else?
Yeah, there's one more coming from Zoom here.
Hey, Marty, Patrick Johnson. One more. Just what are other things you can see the PA doing? Obviously we talk a lot about the CBA, we talk about Olympics, but are there business avenues you think the players could be exploiting more than they are?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that there's an opportunity for us to really support to get the players, individual players more opportunities for sponsorships and to be seen as individuals in hockey. And then also we can always change. Yesterday we had a conversation. I had a conversation with it's not the Health and Safety Committee, but I'm going to call it the Health and Safety Committee for now, talking about the struggles that hockey players and their families and everyone has when it comes to mental health and substance use, and making sure that we have the right programs in place. I mean, there was a study towards the last few months that 1 in 3 people are struggling with some type of mental health issue right now due to the pandemic. That's hockey players, that's people, reporters sitting in this room, that's people watching the press conference. So we can always do more in different areas, and that kind of goes back to an earlier question about, what am I going to do with the staff at the PA? It's like, let's see what we can do representing players, and how do we enhance that? We have life after hockey. How do we help players particularly look at life after hockey? Players that might have not finished college, there's an opportunity for us to get them back into college. There's a lot we can do between now and the CBA. And then also talking to the players and asking them what they want out of us. I think that's key. I can't speak to how the past was here, but this is the players' union. I made it very clear to them. I represent the players in the union and their families, and we represent the players and the families, and we're going to continue to do everything we can to build stronger relationships and let them know that the PA is there on their behalf.
Thanks, Marty. That wraps up the Q&A. We are going to take Marty over here in front of the backdrop, and we'll have a scrum before the lunch begins.
All right. Thank you, guys and ladies.